Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Lucas. I'm an artist coordinator here at Dark of the Dot, which is a supportive platform created by Lauren Little for emerging artists and those who are beginning stages of their journey. My colleague Mia is also here today, ready to pop some links in the chat for you that you might find useful and to help you with any questions or comments. So this is the penultimate talk of the season, and we are really excited to have today's guest, Joke, to help round off the end of the series. Our last event will be next Thursday, same time, and that's Navigating the Art World with Sarah David. For more information and registration, Mia will leave a link for you in the chat. All the talks and replays from the talks that we have had in the series will be available for members as a resource library. So join our mailing list or email us at hello@darkyellowdot.com to get more information on how you can access them. So now it's time to introduce our guest, Joe K. So take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks so much for coming to this talk. I'm really excited to share a bit more about my artistic journey and yeah, I guess starting more with uni and then going into what I'm doing right now. So I've been out of uni since 2019. So yeah, I thought a good place to start is definitely in my first year of university. And then also within the talk, I also sprinkle in some tips and ideas for those of you who have graduated uni and or even those of you who are still at uni and they're trying to think of different things they can do to help them with their career for after they finished. So beginning, I thought I'd start right at the beginning, which is talking you through my university experience in my first year. And in my first year, I wasn't really sure of what I was doing really. Well, I kind of had an idea of the message I wanted to portray through my art, but I wasn't really sure on how I can go about doing that. And so I thought the best way to begin is to just stick with what I was always comfortable with, which was biro drawings, which you can see on the left side. The one, the top left, is actually the first ever drawing I did for a university, I guess like an assignment I had to do. And it was quite interesting because at that time I was actually quite quiet as well and quite shy. But biro to me at that time was such a bold material to use just because once you make that first mark, it's already quite a permanent thing. Um, Whereas, you know, if you're drawing with pencil or you're painting, you can just paint over it or you can rub it out. And that kind of led into, it's kind of interesting to see this slide now because as you move more to the right, it kind of shows more of like the progression that I went through in my first year. And then as you move on, I made this piece, Freedom is Not Free. And that was kind of more focusing on the topics I was interested in, which is more to do with freedom, censorship, that sort of thing. And I guess my confidence was growing a little bit more at that time. But I knew that when I was at uni, I really wanted to push myself. And I kept on thinking of the end goal of like finishing uni and then what I was going to do afterwards. And I knew that I wanted to get the most out of uni, especially because it's so expensive as well. And so I kind of told myself internally, I need to progress each time because, yeah, to get the most out of my experience. And then moving on, what I really like about my uni. So I studied at the University of Reading, and I studied art and English literature, and it was a 4-year course. And in the first year, it was more like a foundational course, and we did lift different topics such as and modules such as sculpture, painting, performance. And during the sculpture module, that's when I realized that I was really interested in using kind of like harder materials. And that's when I came across concrete. And obviously, all of us know what concrete is. But I think for me, I was trying to, I guess, in that role of progression and my journey, I really wanted to focus on things that are more out of the norm. And for me, whenever I thought of concrete, I thought of builders, specifically male builders. I never really saw any female builders, which is, I'm sure there's a lot of great ones out there, but I just didn't come across any. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to be that female builder. I'm just going to do it. And I started working with concrete, and that was really nice as well, because I think that for me was um, definitely gave me a lot more confidence, just in the sense that I was working with material that was something that was even just in a physical way. It was something that was really like hard to work with at the beginning, but it did make me stronger later on, which is quite nice because I guess, yeah, concrete was kind of my gym as well. Whenever I worked with concrete, I was just getting a bit stronger physically and also mentally as well. And started to create these other pieces. So I think this one here was called Counterfeit, and I made a tree stump out of concrete. And then I started working more with larger pieces on the right side. And yeah, moving on, my uni offers study abroad, so I decided to go ahead and do that. And I ended up going to Zurich in Switzerland, which was a really nice experience for me. And I think then, yeah, I was in my third year. And then I still had in mind the idea of I really want to progress and I really want to grow as a person. And Switzerland was really good because I didn't know anyone there, and it forced me to really come out my comfort zone, speak to new people, make these connections, and that's something that I'd really recommend to any of you guys who are at uni or even if you've graduated as well. Still going out there, making connections, and putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations where it might feel like, why am I here? Why am I saying these things? But later on, it's something that can actually come back and really help you. And I'll talk about a bit about that later on. But I did end up having two more exhibitions in Switzerland just from studying abroad and making those connections. And yeah, to briefly talk about my time at Switzerland, I was really fascinated by the buildings and really fascinated by just my experience there in general and my memories that I was making. And I made a lot of castings in different, even just food item packagings as well. So I think this one here was a mincemeat packaging. And then these ones here were actually cut, I poured concrete into milk cartons. For some reason, I was drinking a lot of milk when in Switzerland. I don't know why, but I have loads of these that I managed to be able to bring back home with me. And yeah, I really enjoyed working with that concrete again. I didn't want to abandon it when I went, but then I decided to go more small scale just because of I was in a different country and I knew I wanted to bring some of my work back. So that's why I think that's the reason I didn't really make large scale items as much. And yeah, that was really nice experience. I wasn't just interacting with the students there, but also some of the artists that were there as well, attending a lot of exhibitions and art shows. And that's something, another thing I'd also recommend. Even just attending art shows, and even if the artists of the show might not be there, speaking to the people who are in the galleries, a lot of them might already be artists or they might be um, curators. You never know who you're talking to. So I think it's always nice to be open for conversation and to talking to the different people that are out there. And yeah, being in Switzerland as well, that's when I came across Red Wall, and that's when its first appearance in my work. And I think at that time, I think I was just interested in the color red, to be honest. And um, I think to me, I saw it in a literal sense of like red and red blood and the concrete being like my memories, and then all of that linking. I wasn't really sure exactly the links it would have, but it was just something that my brain told me to work with, and so I decided to work with that. So that was basically Switzerland. And then when I came back from Switzerland, I told myself, okay, I'm in my third year of uni. I have one more year left. When I came back, that was December, and then I had January to April, May of third year left. And I told myself, okay, I'm going to really push myself now when I go back and just yeah, do everything that I've wanted to do since I started uni. Why am I putting it off? Um, and that led into these pieces, which I think some of you might be familiar with. And yeah, once again, Red Wall was continued in my work. And then also I came across a really nice material called Hessian or burlap. I don't know if any of you know that material, but I think a lot of people nowadays, they use it for to transport coffee beans or different food items like that. And it's quite a durable material. And at that time, I wanted to kind of reflect more on myself and my heritage and what it's like being a Black woman in Britain and the complex identities of Black women all around the world, and this idea of sharing stories and also protest pieces. So this is all that's been in my head since I started uni, but I didn't know how to express it. And this is like kind of like the first initial stages of me expressing how I was feeling. And in the top left corner, that's actually the first ever piece. Well, this is the red with the white background. That's the first ever piece I made. And then in the top left is actually the first ever piece I made with Hessian and Red Wall. And I still have that piece with me somewhere. And it's something that I think I'll always keep because it just reminds me of the beginning of when I first started to allow myself to just kind of like, yeah, let go and be more confident and just share more of who I am. Because I think I was more afraid um, of being open to share who I am, just because it's quite a vulnerable thing to, like, art can be quite a vulnerable thing. And I was kind of just holding back because obviously when you share more of yourself, then you're more open to criticism or different things like that, and it can affect you. But I'm happy I did. I did just push myself. And yeah, the reason I came across Hessian was because I was researching more into the transatlantic slave trade, and I was looking more into the lives um, of African people during that time, specifically slaves. And I looked into materials because I was really fascinated by fabric as well. I looked into materials and came across Hessian, and just because I realized that a lot of African slaves were forced to wear really coarse and really rough materials, and Hessian would have probably been one of them as well. Um, and for me, that was quite interesting to work with because I'm someone who I wanted to address all these issues that we've had in the past, but I also like the idea of being able to transform it into something positive without actually erasing the history that was also there. So started working with Hessian, and it was quite interesting because it is quite a rough material. So after a while, it does start to irritate you physically, like in a literal form, irritate you, and it, for me, it was kind of like experiencing the tiniest amount of pain that a slave at that time would have had to endure. Obviously, right now I'm not experiencing that, but just that kind of just reminded me of that each time I work with that material, and it's just a really nice reminder of what's happened in the past and how that was a really horrible thing, but how far we've come as well, despite everything that's happened. And that was really great as well. And um, then here I was looking more at red wool, and the red wool kind of being once again the blood that kind of binds us. Um, I was also really fascinated by red more now because when you think of red, you think of something that's a warning or something negative. But I wanted to once again transform the way you'd see that color. So that's kind of like what I was looking at in my third year. And in my third year is when I started to be in more exhibition. In my fourth year, actually, it's when I started to be in more exhibitions. And I came across what is a woman called Nikel from a group that was called Woke at the time, but now they're called True Color Collective. And she also went to University of Reading and um, asked me to be part of some exhibitions, and that was quite nice. She asked me to be part of the group just because, yeah, it was like an artist of color group, and that was quite nice because I was trying to be more confident in what I was doing, and there wasn't that many Black people in my at university. And so that was quite a confidence booster in that sense. We did loads of exhibitions and shows around London. So one of them was in the ICA, her asking me to do a performance piece and thinking, I'm never going to do that. Why am I doing? Yeah, how can you make me do a performance piece? I've never done it in my life. Um, but then I told myself, you know what? I'm going to really push myself and do something I've never done before and just kind of see where that takes me. And yeah, so on the right side is where we did the performance piece. And that was actually ended up being really, really nice because I think there was about 7 of us or so. And I made connections with these amazing Black women, and we still talk today. Yeah, that kind of gave me more of the confidence to kind of be in front of people and not always be hiding behind my art in that sense. And then from that, we kind of also did other shows. So the bottom left is in a pub that we did it in. And here I stitched together loads of different smaller pieces that I've made. And then in the top left, we did one actually at Tate Modern, which was really cool. And that was kind of a um, going off of the piece that we did on the right side. So it was called Beyond the Voyage, and the one in Tate later on was Beyond the Voyage Part 2. And here I also did the performance again, but definitely was a lot more confident the second time around. So I definitely, what I would say is, if you're going through a stage where you're really not sure about stepping out of your comfort zone, I've done that so many different times, and each time I don't regret it. So I definitely recommend doing that. And even being part of these exhibitions, while still at uni in my fourth year, before my degree show that really gave me the confidence for now being out of uni. And I think if I didn't do those exhibitions before, now being on my own and not being at uni, I would definitely be struggling a lot more just because I haven't had that experience before. So that was yeah, really, really nice. Really enjoyed doing those and made loads of connections through that as well. Not just with the artists, but even just the people that were attending. There were some curators there. There were people that were like art collectors, all kinds of different people that were really interested in just art generally, and loads of other creatives. And yeah, being part of these shows reminded me that just attending even just workshops or exhibitions or shows is where you make those real connections, because it's actually the art world isn't that big. And so when you have these kind of shows, a lot of them actually, you see a lot of familiar faces in everywhere you go. So then I came back. Well, I never left, but then I did my final degree show, which is this. And this is called Das ist für dich, which means this is for you in, well, it's German, and it translates into English for this is for you. And to briefly talk about that, I saw that more of like a sculptural version of myself. So for those of you who don't know, I was born in Germany. That's really important to me. And also, obviously, I reside in England right now, and I'm also Nigerian. So this piece was like an accumulation of my whole identity in that sense, and kind of my experience being at uni as well. And you can't see it here, but there were two speakers with this piece, and the speakers were playing music. So there was a Nigerian national anthem. There was some yeah, different kinds of like sound pieces. There was also some waves crashing in the Atlantic Sea, different things like that. So everything kind of came together to create this one piece. And I had in mind that I wanted it to be quite minimal as well. And yeah, I really like this piece. I think it's still my favorite piece to date, just because of how minimal it is and how, I guess, it kind of sums up what I've always wanted to do. And what I've always wanted to do is to kind of take up space, and yeah, take up space quite literally through my art, but also to fill a space as much as I can. So the sound piece was quite loud and like the whole room heard it. And it's quite a loud room, it's quite a big room as well. So I was really happy with that. I guess I was looking more at Hessian being like a protest piece, in terms of it kind of looking like banners that you see hung up. Um, and I was really happy with that as well. Kind of just, everywhere you were in that room, you'd see my art. And then also with the concrete as well, kind of, um, I guess now the concrete for me was more significant, just because, yeah, before I saw it as, I literally saw it as maybe an element of what a Black woman would be. And I always saw concrete as, oh, the strong Black woman narrative. And I think growing up, that's kind of what I always heard. And that's something that I thought I had to be. Um, but looking at it now, I see it more of like a support structure, in the sense that concrete is all around us. So you have concrete on the floor, makes up the walls of the buildings that we're in. It's literally everywhere. And we kind of just don't acknowledge it, but we just expect it to be there. And I found that so interesting to me, because in the same way I see a Black woman as being someone, yeah, we're everywhere, but we're not really acknowledged as much as other people. I was having a talk with someone the other day about um, Britain and the early days, and how a lot of people didn't see, like, Black people kind of erased from British history. But actually we were there at the beginning as well. So that idea of like always being there but not being acknowledged. So I kind of wanted to elevate the concrete through making support structures as stools. And it's interesting because some people didn't know if they were allowed to sit on the stools or not. Some people did in the end, but for me it was okay. Like I just thought, like, yeah, just, it's quite practical as well. You can just sit on them. And that kind of like led into yeah, I graduated from uni, and then then I was worried, because I was thinking, oh, what do I do now? Like, is everything going to end with art? Because I know I won't have a studio space, I won't have anything. Like, what am I going to do next? And that's when actually Lauren from Dark Yellow Dot reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do my own solo exhibition along with Invisible Numbers. And that was really great, because that kind of leads back to the shows I was doing back in my final year. And she said, I think that's the first time she said she came across my work. And so if I wasn't part of the show at the ICA, then she probably wouldn't have come across my work, and I wouldn't have been able to have this solo show. So that's why I'm saying, if you're at uni right now, if you can even just like with your friends, make a little group and have exhibitions, like even small exhibitions, even if it's like in a little room in your at your university, or if it's in a pub or somewhere, um, things like that bring a lot of creatives together, and you never know who you're talking to or who's actually engaging with your work at that time until later on. So this was a really cool show for me, my first ever solo show, and it was called Unpublished Voices. And I'm still grateful today for the experience, because despite being in places such as Tate Modern and ICA, being in a window gallery, I think for me was holds a lot more significance, especially because my work has always been about reaching people and bringing my art to the people. And so being in a window gallery in Walthamstow, I think quite close to the town centre, was really significant to me, because sometimes I'd go there randomly and sit there and see people walking past, and some people stopping and looking in. And it just made me so happy, because these people are reading um, all these different stories that are literally on their doorstep. And yeah, and the bottom right hand side, there's an artist from Walthamstow who came across my work, and she created like calendars, so yearly calendars, and my exhibition happened to be up at that time, and so she painted my exhibition into the calendar, which I think is so cool as well. And we're still in touch today. So making connections like that just through a show is really like each experience just gives me more and more confidence to keep going and to tell me that what I'm doing in art is actually making an impact in people's lives. So moving on, um, now when I graduated, I didn't go straight into art. I was doing art at the side. I continued to do it, but I also started a marketing job later on in 2019. That was for an Afro hair and beauty company, and in that job, although it wasn't exactly the art I wanted to do in life, I did gain a lot of valuable experience because I was doing marketing. So there's a lot of social media work, blog writing work, because I have a blog at the side that I'm still running called She Stands Firm. And we'd also have kind of photo shoots as well. Yeah, and these photo shoots were always really fun, because I was able to share more of my creative side. And because these products were aimed at Afro hair and Black women, it kind of just affirmed my desire to yeah, kind of do something that's for Black women and to empower them in that sense. So it's nice to know that when I look back at these videos and images, I was in the creative process, and we created something that was quite beautiful and quite positive as well, and something that I haven't seen as much. So for example, seeing a lot of Black women um, in these sort of things, actually seeing Black women and dark Black women, that was really important to me. So that was really nice to be able to share a bit more of what I wanted to see in this world through all of this. So since then, well, during that time, I was also kind of continuing my art, and I was kind of um, refining what my message is. I started to be more, I guess, yeah, vocal through the pieces I was creating. Um, so I had more of a fascination with sharing stories and making sure I'm heard. And in that time, I was, yeah, still creating a lot of pieces, but making more smaller form pieces, as opposed to my degree show and other things like that. And yeah, that was really nice for me as well, just because these are pieces that I still have, and I'm able to look at them, and they still inspire me today. And um, one thing I'd also recommend is having a social media platform, because I've been sharing a lot of my pieces on there, and it's been really nice to hear people message me privately just to say that they actually that it spoke to them, or it gave them confidence to do something in that sense. And so yeah, if you have a social media platform or website, sharing on there, you don't know who you're reaching and you don't know who's seeing it. And I was having a talk with an artist the other day as well, and she was saying how if you want to come across different galleries or different art curators, a lot of them actually look at Instagram nowadays and social media rather than other forms. Like it can be an exhibition as well, but everything is online nowadays. So social media is definitely a really good platform to get your work out there. So yeah, I started writing more about my art, and so a lot of my captions would be quite long form, like this one in the bottom left hand corner. And I was writing a lot for my She Stands Firm platform, which is a woman of color empowerment platform, interviewing Black women and writing about um, sharing different books by women of color, sharing different businesses by women of color, and just trying to get their stories and their businesses out there as well as sharing my one at the same time. And then in got to 2020, and there's the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, and at that time everything kind of went quiet, I guess, in terms of exhibitions. Didn't have as many exhibitions. I don't think I even had a physical exhibition, but everything was closed down. But I still stayed on my social media platform, and I was still able to share a bit more of my work on there. And it was really nice to get like a nice response from that as well. And people telling me, "Oh, thank you so much for sharing this and sharing my story," because sometimes it's I'm not realizing that what I'm sharing is actually a shared experience from someone else. So that was also really nice, and I made a lot of connections during that period as well, just with other Black women who really wanted to discuss their experiences being a Black woman in Britain specifically. And yeah, after that, um, yeah, I started actually applying to more exhibitions, and that was kind of me stepping out of my comfort zone. And even though when I was applying, I was kept on thinking to myself, "Oh, I'm never going to get these opportunities. It's never going to happen." But then, yeah, I got them, and that was always exciting to get that email through, like, "Oh, you've yeah, we've accepted you and to do this thing." And with each exhibition that I got accepted to, then another one would pop up, and some people would even reach out to me and ask me to be part of their exhibition. So I would also recommend applying to as many exhibitions as you can, or if you have the time for it, and kind of just seeing where it goes from there, because you don't know what experience and what opportunity you can get. Like, and you don't know, you'll never know, because you could actually get accepted as well. And I think each acceptance also gives you a bit more confidence that what you're doing is actually what you should be doing. And yeah, the top left was billboards around the UK with Clear Channel, and I think the company was called We Are POCC, and I think they chose about 10 artists, and we each got to have our work on billboards around the UK, and that was really exciting for me. I've never seen my work that big before. And even the bottom left hand corner was a billboard in Reading, so basically where my university was. So that was a really nice experience. And it's on the bottom right hand corner was when I saw my work in person for the first time on the billboard, and I nearly cried because I thought this is actually like this is what I've always wanted to do, and the fact that um, people are getting to see it, and it's not just about me sharing my art, but actually like the message behind it. So standing despite it all means so much to me, and for someone else to be able to read that and to potentially um, for it to inspire them is everything to me. So that's great. And then just to quickly touch on other ones. So the bottom left here, where I'm hovering, is at Tape Britain. So they had an open call for artists to submit some work about what home means to them. And this is the work I submitted. And that was also a really great opportunity because they had an opening night, and at the opening night I got to also meet a lot of different artists as well. So all these experiences, it's not just about me being able to share my art, but actually being able to make connections with other people that are there as well. And then in the middle is an exhibition I got to do in be part of in Zurich. So touching back on my study abroad time, the university asked me to be part of an exhibition there. and that was last year or the year before. Um, so yeah, like if I didn't do study abroad, this probably wouldn't have happened. So now it's nice to know that I have connections out there, and that was a really nice exhibition. Unfortunately, I couldn't be part of it, but I couldn't be physically there. But it was still nice to see images online and to see the reactions and the engagement with the people that were there. And all of these kind of things led back into, the more I was putting myself out there, the more people were seeing me, because obviously I was making myself known. And it was really nice to be part of articles and to exhibitions, and to be interviewed by different types of art organizations. And these things all happen just because me putting myself out there and making these further connections in that sense as well. And this kind of led on to artist talks, and my university invited me back actually earlier this year, and I did an artist talk there. And then I did an artist talk on the right side. I did an artist talk at Crafts Council, and that was a really fun one as well, where they had a bunch of, I think there was five, three, four, five, six. I think there's four of us artists there, and we were invited to talk a bit more about our art and what it's like being an artist of color in today's time. And that was quite nice because there was also a networking event. And so after we did the talk, we were able to talk with the different creatives that were there. And I made loads of connections that day as well, and people that I still talk to today. So that was a really eye-opening experience, because it kind of told me that there are so many creators out there, and we all want to be part of each other's world, and there are so many different overlaps. And it's all about basically pushing yourself to go to these events and be open, just be open to what could happen. So I thought I'd quickly talk on what I'm doing right now. So right now I've actually left my full-time marketing job, and I am focusing more on my art, and kind of focusing more on presenting myself more in what I'm doing. So I've been, let me see if I can play this video. Yeah, so I've been taking a lot of videos of myself making my art, and that's been it's really important to me, because I want to be able to share more of myself in my art, and not just the final art piece. And I love being able to share my process and to show that it's not exactly perfect, and things might go wrong here and there, but that's basically life. I think life isn't just about, here's the final piece, this is the perfect piece. It's about all the bits in between, the highs and the lows as well. So yeah, that's been really nice. I've been experimenting more with fusing different pieces together, and seeing how I can share and create different messages through that, in that sense. And then also I've been I opened up a TikTok, and that's been quite cool. I never thought I'd go on TikTok, but I just did that quite recently. I just thought, let me go for it. And yeah, that's been really nice to kind of share more of my voice specifically. So I'll just share one clip.
All have a purpose, an essential role on this earth. It's no accident that we're here. So we can stand tall, knowing that we were made for such a time as this. We all...
Yeah, so that's been another thing that's kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone in that sense. And it's been nice to have a small community on TikTok. And I've also made some friends on TikTok as well that I'm still talking to. And yeah, kind of just like trying to take more steps now to push myself out of my comfort zone, whether that's through social media, whether that's through making connections in real life, and different
have a purpose.
Yeah, different ways like that.
There is power in standing united.
Yeah, I can play this as well.
There is power in speaking out, and there is power in taking action. It's time to stop allowing the barriers in our lives to keep us from moving forward. It's time to set new standards.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said before, still running my She Stands Firm platform. I kind of want to bring that up again this year as well, and interviewing more artists. So that's something that I'll be doing. We'll be pushing out as the year goes on, in that sense. And I thought I'd mention, in terms of making art connections now, these are some of the things I'm doing. So going to more exhibitions, networking events, open calls, and I think also applying to a lot of fellowships, prizes, and grants. These are things that you can be doing right now. If you don't want to do a full-time job in marketing or anything like that, a corporate job, you can apply to like an art fellowship, and that can be something that can keep you going with your current what you're currently doing in art, and to kind of pursue art further in that sense. And if you can, to get a studio as well, just that you have your own space where you can kind of have arts in one space and then have your own personal life. So it's not just like, in your room kind of doing it in that sense. And attending a lot of webinars and artist talks. So I attended a webinar yesterday, and that was really great, with an artist called Joy Lebinger. And I think that's yesterday or Tuesday. And it was really nice to hear about her experience and to get a lot of advice from her. And even from that artist talk, I got a lot of, I made a lot of connections with the people that were in that webinar. And these are people that I'm talking to now, like curators and different people like that. So it's, yeah, all of these different experiences, I think, to close up, is what's brought me to where I am today. And it's not just about me, but also about the people I've been able to engage with, and also just through pushing myself out of my comfort zone a lot, and just being open to what's out there, and allowing people to then being able to find me and to reach me in that sense. So that's basically all I wanted to share. Sorry for all the coughing earlier. I'm glad it cleared up towards the end, but if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. And I've also got my email there if you want to send me a question via email. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that talk. It was so interesting, and it's amazing to see your work and like understand the journey that you're going through. I'm just going to quickly run through a few things, and then we could open it up to Q&A. So if you want to see more of Joke's work, please make sure to check them out on socials, and the websites will be posted in the chat. And if you want to continue hearing about events and other opportunities, subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on socials. Also, a quick reminder that our final talk of the series is next week with Sarah David on navigating the art world, and that is next Thursday. So the link to register will be in the chat. So I hope you enjoyed this talk, and although the series is coming to a close for now, we encourage you to send ideas for guests and topics for the future. Feel free to send us an email at hello@darkyellowdot.com, or reach out to us on our Instagram, which is just @darkyellowdot. So now we're going to have some Q&As, and if anyone's got a question before we sign off, then feel free to ask.
I have a question. Again, it's always me.
Linda, I was saying that you are very, very loyal, and we have really enjoyed you in this whole experience.
No.
So you said earlier, and thanks for your talk. It's really good to hear and see your work and your journey and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, you said if you hadn't done all of what you've done while you were studying, you'd be really struggling. So I'm 52. I've never had any formal art training once I left school. I sort of took a design route and then worked as a furniture maker for many, many years. And finally, after 17 years of teaching, I've packed that in. I've been teaching art design and construction for many, many years, stopped doing that. And essentially, so I can now finally come out as an artist. So my journey is a little bit kind of like, yeah, it's not a traditional way in. So like I've been in a couple of exhibitions, but I'm not in that circle. So like, what advice would you give to me? Because I'm not in that flow of when you're a student and you're all like exhibiting together, or you like opportunities come up, to be able to get your work out there. What would you advise me to do?
That's all. I just love your journey. Like, it feels like you've done so much already, and it's really inspiring as well. And yeah, everyone's journey is very different. So it's really nice to hear yours. And I think going to all these, specifically when there's exhibitions, a lot of these exhibitions have an open day or an open night. And at a lot of these open nights, that's where you have the artists there, and you have other creatives and other artists. And that's also kind of like a networking event. And that's where artists are sharing more about their art, or they're sharing their social media or their website, and kind of just, yeah, going to these kind of events in real life and meeting people there and having these conversations with them. I think that's really a good time to a good way to get into the art world again. Yeah, and even if you can't go in real life, webinars online as well. These webinars, a lot of the time when you're making when you're listening to the artist, I was in a webinar the other day where someone, you can actually, I didn't know you can do this, but you can on Zoom, you can direct message someone in the chat. And they were direct messaging me saying, oh, I think I think I asked a question to the artist, and then they messaged me by directly and said, oh, I'd love to work with you. Here's my email address. So things like that, even just attending webinars, it's also a great way to try and get yourself back into the art world in that sense. But also obviously applying to different art shows, you know, because these people, I'm sure your work is amazing. And once you're in with that, then other artists get to see your work, and that's how connections are made. So.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
So we have a question from Holly. The question is, what then was a turning point that led you to pursue art full time? What gave you the courage?
Ooh. That's a really good question. I think because I've been working my full-time job for 2.5 years, and I wasn't doing something that I thought was really helping people. Even though I was doing art at the side, it wasn't actually, I knew that deep down, I just wanted to put my all into art and really just go down that route, and also to grow my She Stands Firm platform. I have really big plans for that as well. So I thought, okay, life is short. I got through uni by telling myself, step out of my comfort zone, do this, do that, keep pushing myself. So now that I've done 2.5 years of my full-time job, I just thought the next step is just to step out of my comfort zone again in a really big way this time, to pursue art full-time and just to see where it takes me. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back into a full-time job or part-time job. But I'm going into it really hopeful, knowing that I can actually get somewhere with it. So I think that's kind of like my inspiration, and also just wanting to have a greater impact in people's lives. So I just, yeah, thought I'd go like that.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for being at the talk, and thank you, Joke, for hosting with us at the talk. It was great to hear your journey, and like we really look forward to seeing what you do in the future now that you're a full-time fledged artist. And you know, Lauren's always loved your work. We love your work, so I'm guaranteed that in the future we'll be asking to work with you again.
That would be amazing.
Well, yeah, thank you everybody for coming. And as I said earlier on, next week will be the final talk of the series, so please don't miss out. We shall see everybody soon. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.